Going. All right, so thanks everyone for joining us. We have been doing a series every month on Fridays at lunchtime on topics related to adult learning, but also just related to best practices in our colleges, things that are foundational so that we can all be on the same page. We did a session on high school equivalency methods. We did one on communication strategies for adults. And today's topic is curriculum and course development. What does this look like for adult educators? But honestly, it's what does this look like for people who are teaching essentially not in the K-12 space? And what resources can you glean? So we'll go ahead and get started. Adrienne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I am Adrienne Fontenot, and you'll get to hear from Erin and I today. Later, if you check us out on social media, you'll see that we have another session coming up in June on distance and digital learning. So we hope you sign up for that one. Ben giving the 2 thumbs up for his session. And just so you know, these are being recorded and they'll be placed in Basecamp, or we can email these out to you. So
All right.
you want to go for it? Lovely map.
I just figured this is the thing I always talk about.
Yeah.
So for those of you that are in adult education, but maybe don't know this, for those of you that are not in the work ready adult education space, in our state, the community technical college system has authority for administration of adult education across the state. There are 22 providers of adult education in Louisiana. And so this map shows what all of those locations, well, all those providers are. But for example, if you look at Louisiana Delta, they're in pretty much all of Northeast Louisiana. The Literacy Council, I'm thinking about Lunchables. The Literacy Council is in multiple parishes across Southwest Louisiana. The same is true sort of across the board, right? So we have 22 programs. And there are over 200 sites. We will drop a link in the chat that brings you to this Pathway Finder site where students can, or prospective students can learn what those programs are. All right, next slide. So LCTCS is not, people generally assume from the outside that LCTCS's mission is solely credit associate degree programming, and that is definitely a very large part of our mission. About half of our students annually across the system are in that credit mission. Average age is 25, and then there are demographics there. But it's also important to remember that folks are coming into our system from a lot of other doors, right? A quarter of our students annually are coming to us for short-term workforce training. And some people call it non-credit, but we're trying to move away from the term non-credit because it sounds negative. But what we mean is just not in the credit space, short-term workforce training. And then about a quarter of our students annually are coming to us through adult education. We are serving adults across all of these areas of our mission. And honestly, as a system and as a state, we want to be serving adults more effectively moving forward. This makes us unique in the higher education space. All right, Adrienne.
Okay, so I always say this, if you've been to one of our presentations, we love Slido. You can use this in your classroom as well, or any of your trainings. So take out your phone, just hover the camera over the QR code, or go to slido.com and enter this code. I'll give everybody a second to do that. Thumbs up if we're there. Okay, it's still on this side. So let's just see who all is in the room today. So if you haven't used Slido before, there are these little interactive rankings, there are word clouds, there's a quiz feature that I love. So try it out if you haven't yet. Okay. Oh, good. Partners here too. Yeah, we shared this invitation kind of out there with the network and invited anybody and everybody associated with adult education so that they could join in on our Lunch and Learn Fun. Okay, so back to the topic. What do you think of when you see the word or hear the word curriculum? And you can put more than one answer because I'm sure you can guess that there's really more than one definition out there. But what's the hard stress? Program of study. Yeah, planning, topics to study and learn, a learning guide. Could be constant change. We're going to talk a little bit about that as it relates to standards for sure. Definitely learning objectives built in as we go through this. So what's our starting point? Someone already gave this away when they mentioned standards. And my little friend here looks, oh, well, let me go back. My little friend confused me. Where did we go? Let me pull this up. Sorry, guys. I got click happy. And I'm right here. Because I'm clicking on our resources and not the next one. Okay, so what's our starting point? Again, we have standards that all of our Work Ready U programs are to use when planning for instruction. Of course, we have the college and career readiness standards and the English language proficiency standards. So college and career standards, readiness standards, as you know, is a subset specifically for adults from the Common Core standards. And then the ELPs, the English language proficiency standards, are another piece of that. Those are those standards that have been pulled out for specific use with our English language learners. North Star Digital Literacy, as you know, we have access to these distance and digital learning tools. If you do not know your username or password or how to get into it, if you're new to Work Ready U, please send us an email and we can help you out with that. And of course, workforce preparation standards. Sure, Erin.
And also, if you're not in the adult education Work Ready U space and you're interested in North Star Digital Literacy, there is a statewide license for all of our colleges, yes, all universities. And so if you're interested in it and you're not sure how to get into it, please reach out to us as well because we can connect you to the right place.
So those of you who are familiar with the college and career readiness standards, there's the book, the big digital book that came out years ago. This version that you'll have access to when we post this and email it out to the attendees is an easier overview. I think it's laid out in a more meaningful way so that you can see the math domains, ELA, all of the different topic areas, and then each subject by level. North Star Digital Literacy Standards. Same thing, you would log into here and you have access to everything, including curriculum. And then our workforce prep standards. This one is kind of laid out like those CCRS standards. It's really based on the Octave employability framework about getting people ready to work, working on everything from interpersonal relationships and communication skills to clocking in on time. So it's a little bit of everything for you with those. But as you probably know, curriculum and course development involves a whole lot more than what we just said. We have to consider the data that shows what students entering adult education and what the students out there, our pool of potential students, what their levels are like, where they fit in terms of readiness for taking on all the math skills required, the English language learning skills required. This is a nifty little link that takes you to adult ed data by parish. This is a snapshot of literacy in Louisiana. Erin, do you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so again, we're gonna be talking about adult ed because that's the space that we deal in every day, but this should concern everyone in Louisiana. So if you're teaching at the university level, at the community college level, in workforce short-term training, a full 1/3 of Louisiana's adults have low literacy, which means that they're gonna struggle to read anything beyond a very basic paragraph with very basic vocabulary. 42%. Oh wait, I'm going to show my numeracy. 27% means about 1 in 3. So think about that when you interact with your classrooms, with students that you're dealing with folks in student services. Folks are struggling to read. 42% of adults in Louisiana have low numeracy, meaning low math skills. They're going to struggle to do anything beyond basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and sometimes they're going to struggle with that. If it gets more complicated, if we're talking about fractions and decimals, if we're talking about geometry or basics of algebra, they're going to have a really hard time. And so that's 2 out of every 5 people you interact with. That's a huge deficit for any learners to be coming to us with, right? And so no matter the classroom, no matter what we're doing in this system, we need to be thinking about how to embed reading, writing, math, speaking, listening skills in everything that we do. Also digital literacy and all of those skills. These charts have also sort of a correlation, by parish to poverty levels and whether or not kids are passing 4th grade LEAP. And there are a lot of outcomes that are worse for people. It's related to their literacy and numeracy. Okay.
Yeah, because this is shouldn't be a shocker to many of us now, but.
Well, and so when we think about this, a lot of times, especially when folks are talking about adult ed, they think of us as purely being about high school equivalencies, getting adults back into education and earning a high school equivalency. And we definitely do that. And we need to, because 500,000 adults in Louisiana, or almost 500,000, are without a high school diploma. And this is a huge problem. But the larger sort of problem is that our literacy, no, you're good. Go to the next one, is the literacy and numeracy skills that we talked about. And so what that actually looks like is, so this is national, 18% of the adult population have low literacy skills. Sorry, my brain just broke. 30% of the adult population, low math skills. Louisiana is doing very poorly in comparison to national numbers. And so if it's 500,000 adults in Louisiana with low skills, just without a high school equivalency, it's actually 1 million who have low skills, right? So this touches everything that we're trying to do in the education space, everything that we're trying to do in economic development. I can talk, y'all. I'm feeling good about myself. All right, let's go to the next one. And so this has real ramifications for workforce. If we have folks whose skills don't align with the skills needed for jobs, those are workforce gaps. And so this really aligns what the educational attainment numbers are to the educational attainment required for job outlook or job openings. As you know, probably right now, Louisiana has really historic low unemployment, but that's misleading. We have about 58% of our state is in the labor force participation. And so labor force participation means that folks are either in a job or actively looking for a job. That means that 42% or 41%, 40% generally at any given time are not in the labor force. That means they could be retired. These are working age people. They could be retired and they could be staying at home and parenting. But that also means a lot of people are on the sidelines of our economy for many, many reasons. And what I'm telling you, and I hope that you take away from this, is that one of the big reasons is that we've got folks who are underskilled. All right, let's move on. And then this is just a snapshot of what adult education work ready you looks like, students at intake across the state. So this is, I guess this is this year.
23, 24, yeah.
Yeah. But at intake, 76, almost 77% of our students, when they come to us, test in the 0 to 8th grade level. And I will tell you that the vast majority of them are around 3rd and 4th grade level. Only 1% of our students come to us at high school skill levels. So when you think about the academic journey that our folks need to go on, there's a lot of work that we do with them. And about 22% of our students coming to us in this state are English language learners when they come. That number continues to grow. There will be more and more English language learners in the years to come. Okay, back to you.
Okay, quiz time. And either Ben or Tracy, if you don't mind letting us know if there's if there are any questions in the chat. And guys, it's a small group, so please feel free to unmute. Okay, quiz time. You have 18 seconds left. What else do we need to consider? Because this is a never-ending process. So much to think about when planning for instruction. No one did we run out of time? Hooray!
So
No one
I think it was confusing because you had to put your name in and then do stuff.
Oh, sorry guys. Well, anyway, it was supposed to have a winner. It's fun, but you know, things we need to consider. Products we have access to. We have a lot of you use Essential Ed, Aztec, Burlington English. We have sets of materials that we've inherited from our classrooms. There are those important HSE, the HISA, and the GED frameworks that are out there that gives you a bit of information on, you know, what percentage of fractions do we have on the test. Citizenship exams, IETs in place, IBCs, any other assessments, because our students are coming to us for various reasons. Programming and scheduling. What does your program look like for students? How is it organized? Are none of these important? Are all of them and more? All of them and more is the right answer. Okay, so now we're going to dive into design, development, and frameworks. So we talked about in the beginning how there are many definitions of curriculum, but this is kind of boils it down to one simple statement. It's what teachers teach and what students study. So with it, and today we don't want you to get bogged down in all of the terms. We just want to give you an overview of some of the things you may hear when referring to curriculum, especially since the first answer that popped up on the slide was stress, is the word that comes to mind when planning curriculum. So really, like, the curriculum framework is just something there to help keep you organized. It's the plan that you need to help you define what you want to teach, what your students need to learn, what those learning outcomes are going to be. Curriculum design, again, you may hear the words blueprint or mapping. You may hear scope and sequence. For those of you who want to nerd out over this, go for it. We have examples of huge maps with scope and sequence in there, especially for those of you coming from the K-12 world. You may have had to do a lot of that when planning. And then curriculum development. It's not something that's static. It should be an ongoing process. We know as the, especially for us living in this high school equivalency world, as the tests, you know, starting out in 2014 and 12, when things were changing in the high school equivalency landscape, we know those tests changed. As our standards came on board, as things happen in the world, there is AI now. There's so much that we need to be aware of to always evaluate and develop what we're doing. So now, again, feel free to use the chat or to open, get yourself off mute, but there's some things we need to think about. And work ready staff, feel free to jump in and answer some of these questions since you haven't seen these yet. So I know a lot of you are going to ask, but what about the vendor products? A lot of times when we ask what curriculum you're using, again, you'll tell us Essential Ed, Burlington English, Aztec. And we do not endorse any one product. We are fine with everything that is out there that is going to help your instruction and help your students. So kind of the stance that I take at least is that it's there as a supplement. It's there to enhance what you're doing in the classroom. It's there to help you with your distance learning. But certainly we know, and you'll learn next month in June, plug for Ben's session on June 14th, that, to have a successful distance learning program, there's got to need to be some more engagement. I know a lot of you do some live Zoom classes, have coaches to check in with them. There's so many things other than just logging in to the program. Erin, did you want to say? I see your face.
Yeah, no, yeah. So I think this is something really important for everyone to think about. Again, no matter what it is you're teaching, you may be in our community colleges and assigned to teach a beginning math course, or Ben, I'm going to pick on you teaching a English composition course. There may be software that is aligned with that course. You may have Pearson, college algebra aligned to it, but that is not a replacement for you having a framework design for a curriculum in those courses. It should supplement, not be your curriculum. Now, I'm saying that, and I am one person who, as soon as someone is going to ask me to provide a curriculum, I'm going to stress out, right? I am not a trained K-12 educator. But that's kind of the reason that we wanted to do this session. Like, we need to breathe through the feelings we may have about, I'm not a curriculum developer, and really just sit down and think about what it is that our students need. What is it that we're going to teach? What is the schedule of how we're going to do that? And what resources do I have to plug into it? Does that feel okay, Adrian? Did I mess anything up? No, okay.
Not at all. And I think you got into some of the other questions in here. Don't panic. Do I need formal lesson plans and a syllabus? Perhaps. It doesn't have to be a formal lesson plan. I know some states have, a state template that you must use for lesson plans. We are not that state. We want things to be organized. Your program may have something that you use to kind of show like your plan for the week, your plan for the month, your plan for the mini-mester, or whatever chunk of time you are using. Should we analyze and evaluate all things curriculum on a regular basis? Yes. Yes, we don't want things to stay static. I know some programs get together in the summer, and they may have a group of teachers come together, maybe have a little PLC and talk about what they're doing, what worked, what didn't work past semester, and kind of go back to the drawing board. From that, after you go to conferences, you're going to learn a ton of things. That's a perfect time to plug in something that you learned and share it with others. And who makes these decisions? Well, it'll be pretty much the team, your work ready use supervisor, and then all of you coming together to just talk about what the possibilities are for kind of shaping the course of the courses and your program.
I will also add, so if you're coming to us from the credit space, there are student learning outcomes that are assigned to the course that you're teaching. You're generally not going to be developing that on your own. There are curriculum committees, there's SACS accreditation, there are all these things. But that generally is going to develop the outcomes, not necessarily how you're going to approach teaching those outcomes. And so you have authorship, is that a word? And some autonomy insofar as how you're going to teach it. If you're lucky enough to be teaching in the adult education space or the workforce development space, you have a lot more autonomy as to not only how you're going to teach, but what it is that you're going to teach, which is both exhilarating and also a huge responsibility, right? So as someone who has done this in all the ways that one could do it, I have gone into a class where I just kind of took it day by day and saw what was up. I've gone into it with significant planning. I'm telling you, the planning needs to happen ahead of time. You need to have a scope and sequence and really a guide for what it is that you're going to be doing.
And yeah, it's work in the beginning, definitely. It is work in the beginning. But once it's set, I think you walk into a classroom feeling more confident in what's going on. Your students also can see, they can tell, I think that this is where we're going, and that's where a syllabus or anything like that that you can share with your students to know what's going on.
And the last thing that I'm gonna say on this slide, and I promise I'm gonna be quiet, on the who makes these decisions question, in the adult education space and in the workforce development space, it is you, your program, your program of study in the, a non-credit training space. However, in grant applications to continue to be a program in adult ed, there are questions around what is your curriculum? How do you build it? And so it would behoove everyone to be thinking about what their process is at this point, because, Aztec, I think, is an insufficient answer. It's a great supplement. It is not your curricular approach.
Yeah, Ben, Tracy, any questions in the chat, or anybody want to unmute? Comments, questions? Okay. Moving on to one of my favorite parts, resources. As you can see on this page, this is just a fraction of what is out there. Years ago, I was crowned the Google Queen, and I still hold that title, I believe. I'm self-crowned. There is so much out there in an adult ed, well, in anything really. If it's out there, take it, see what you like from it, and make it your own. So there are so many things. I'm not going to go through all of these today, but I'm going to pick on a few to show you what's out there. You've probably, if you've been around me, you've heard me talk about teaching the skills that matter. This set, it was a project that we were in. It's through Links, our federal agency for PD, the federal arm of PD and communication, and some teacher training online courses. Teaching the skills that matter really for a teacher. If you're hiring a new teacher, if you're a new teacher and you are charged with teaching civics for the first time and you don't know where to start, this is the perfect place. As you can see, different subject areas with the most detailed lesson plan you will ever find. You can take it and go, and then later make it your own. Tiffany, did you have a question, or that was just your hand? Oh, okay. So this is one of the resources that I highly recommend, and poke around on the Links website too if you haven't yet, for tons of great information. We have our Work Ready You lesson plan vault that I admit is a little clunky, but we do have some quality lessons in there. And if you need access to that and you're having trouble logging in, just let me know. We do have a grand plan to hopefully move some of these things to a nicer place, like the OER Commons. You've probably heard of that if you were in the K-12 space, but there's a whole adult ed collection in there for you to check in on. You can even submit lessons in OER Commons. See, look, you can add your OER, but you search by topic, type, level. Lots of great stuff here. If we move on, look, another state that has a lesson plan bank. Like I said, if you Google it, you will find it. So ready-made lessons for you. And for those of you who really want to check out scope and sequence, there's a place there. This is another great resources from our friends in New York. It really is aligned to the college and career readiness standards, and it's for those higher level students who are ready to work on that. And then if you've seen us probably on social media, a lot of Save Jamboard. Well, I think Jamboard is going away. So there's FigJam. Mentimeter is another polling software. There's so many things you can use. And then our friends at EdTech have actually compiled a list of cool things for you to use for interactive lessons, just to add a little bit of technology into what you're doing. So with this, we wanted to remind you that no matter what you're teaching, English, math, writing, civics, English language learners, you have access to two really cool free resources right now. ANN is the Adult Numeracy Network. It's really the way that math should be taught. Tons of critical thinking, hands-on math, makes it fun, helps people get over their math fears. We have a block of memberships, so all you have to do is go on there, and again, we'll post this or email this the slides for you to access the coupon code. But with that code, you become a member of the Adult Numeracy Network and have access to more than the free resources that are listed on their site.
I put it in the chat too, Adrian.
Oh,
I'm
thanks.
putting all the links and stuff.
All the stuff. Okay, good. And then the change agent is from World Ed, and it is a student written magazine that comes out twice a year. It is leveled. Sure, there's civic stuff, English stuff, math in there. We encourage you to answer their call for proposals, because if your student's writing is selected, then they get published in a national magazine and they get $50. There's also a section on the website where students who need to listen can listen to the stories. There's an activity after each one. Wonderful resource. There's also a webinar on how to use it in the classroom on their website. Okay, course development, planning, implementation, and models. Basically, where do you start? Because across the state, that map Erin showed, 22 programs, 200 sites, lots of different models in place. Some have open enrollment, some are one-room schoolhouses, some operate not on a full semester, but on a 6 to 8 week schedule, managed enrollment. Some do a little bit of a combo where it's managed enrollment, but Fridays are walk-in lab days. Lots of options for you. So again, this part is kind of the back to the basics. What do we mean when we talk about development, planning, and all of the other things? So course development, I kind of look at this as the order that you need to think about when developing your courses, especially if you're trying to move away from just that open enrollment. You want a student calls, a student walks in, you test them, you try to give them orientation, you're trying to teach. You know, there are still some places out there that are trying to do all of that, be everything to the student. But we know that that disrupts the class because you're being pulled away to test somebody or to get them to understand what this is about. Because again, what do our students ask us? Well, how long do I have to be here? You know, so and we always say, I think Erin and I joked about this not too long ago on our tour. The answer is it depends, but you have to make sure that the student understands that this is a process and that they have options. And having that kind of defined start and stopping point, like in a small chunk of time, not as long as a semester, but again, like 6 to 8 weeks, that gives the students a sense of, okay, there is a beginning, there is an end. I can check in on my progress. I'm staying with this same group of students. So then course planning. So you're gonna first start with like developing your courses, thinking about what your students need. We may think about, you know, the subjects reading, writing, math. Sometimes people alternate a science, social studies. There's an English language class. Think about what your students need. Do you need different levels of math? Probably. Course planning. This is really where I think it's important for the team to get together as a group and kind of divvy out the work, decide who's going to do what, who can help design what. Course implementation. You really do sometimes have to start with a calendar and map out what are these 6 weeks going to look like. And even if you are kind of that open enrollment, Monday, Wednesdays, do students know that we have a math lesson from 10 to 12 every Monday and Wednesday? Just to have something out there so it is, like Erin said, I've done the same thing. You walk in and you say, this is what we're doing today. At least the students know what's coming. And then guess what? There are a ton of course models out there for you to follow. Okay, so let's look at some of the questions that we need to consider when planning for our courses. Do I have to have it? What about individualized work? My students like individualized work. Again, there's a place for that individualized work. We know that adult students value that one-on-one time with you, but we don't want it to look like back in the old days when adult ed was, let's be quiet, here's your worksheet, work it, come to the desk, I'll check it, and let's move on. I think there's a place for, I think one of the best models is a good mix. Some one-on-one work, some peer tutoring in small groups. Again, have some whole group scheduled lessons. Do you have to have courses? It is not a state requirement right now, but it is definitely a best practice. Erin? I see you.
I agree with that.
Oh,
I think the thing to think about is, all people at all ages thrive with structure that gives choice, but there's a clear discernible structure, right? So like a very open-ended, I don't know, it depends, maybe you'll figure out how to make your way through this, is not particularly helpful for students or faculty. It's too much. And like if you look at those college career readiness standards, just take a minute to think about, look at how much is in there. It's too much to just say we're covering everything and anything that's necessary. And so figuring out a way to build a structure that is understandable, I think is going to be really key for helping students see a path to whatever is next.
yeah. And then does this apply to distance learning and hybrid courses? Yes, they need structure too. Again, like Erin said, we're not just going to give them a password and teach them in orientation how to log into Burlington English. There's a place for that, but having structure, having check-ins, having time for students to come in face to face if they need to, that needs to be an option. What if my program schedule doesn't allow for this? Will I have to switch to managed enrollment? As of right now, nope, that is not a state requirement, but it's something to think about, to talk about within your program, because guess what? You can change things, like Erin said. Adult education, we're very open, a little bit of the wild, wild west here, but sometimes that you can use that to your advantage and just come together and just change things, just so you advertise it so that your students know from now on, this is our schedule. And who will build all of this? You can with our help. And we are all here to help you because we talk to all 22 program supervisors. We know some of the models that are out there happening, and we could connect you with some folks who are doing some great work in this area with planning. And on the next page, we're going to get to some resources so that you can kind of take a little deep dive on your own to see what's out there. So, Erin, I'm going to pull up the sample course schedule for you to kind of talk through something you created many years ago. I think that's what this is.
Yeah, so this is really old. But this is just like what well, not just like, there are a lot more colors here. This is what like a college master schedule would look like. We took all the classrooms that we had at all of the locations that we had it, and then built a series of courses. If you click on the bottom on the course descriptions, we built a catalog of the courses, how it's taught, what NRS levels they align to, and generally what the theme of that course is. We made
It's
it
also
up.
a little mini course catalog.
No one gave that to us. We made it up. But the thing is, you can use it as a sample. You can say, that makes no sense. That should not be a course. You can do whatever you want. The point is, you can do whatever you want. You can build things that are going to help students understand what their learning journey is. And if you'll notice in that master's schedule with all the colors, there's a sort of breakdown of what that looks like at a location that has, what is that, 6 classrooms operating mornings and through nights. And then locations where it's 1 classroom or 2 classrooms operating, right? And so how do you mix up what courses are offered at what time? Yeah.
So over here, like I said, we've had this discussion for as long as I've been in adult ed. Drop-in or open enrollment versus managed. You really want to read a little bit about the pros and cons of each. We have some stuff right there for you. Different frameworks for organization and planning. I think this is the Illinois website. So they have everything, including contextualized curriculum, bridge courses, like all leveled by NRS levels for us, ready for you to take and make your own. Let's see. That's what I love about searching for things on the internet. And then universal design. If you've been to any conferences over the past however many years, you've definitely heard about UDL and anything kind of in that realm. Because if you think about it, if you're not doing level classes where students can sign up for them, then you're dealing with students of all different backgrounds coming to us at different learning levels. This is kind of the all-inclusive route for designing. And in the, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, even if you have courses that are
Yeah,
specific subjects, you're gonna have
you're gonna have
learners
to
who are at
still.
all different levels with all different backgrounds, right? The virtue or the advantage of having courses designed is that for instruction, you know what, or a teacher knows what they're teaching. There is a plan in place. But UDL is really around how you're going to teach it, the lesson, the activities, how you plan for all learners with all of their circumstances in mind.
And those TSTM resources, Teaching the Skills That Matter, I told you the most detailed lesson plan template you will ever find. It really lends itself to UDL. And again, just some course design models. Blended, hybrid, flipped, high flex, all the terms that you will learn about on June 14th when you attend Ben's Lunch and Learn session, right? Okay, and some more free for you things. So links, the website again that we looked at earlier, the federal arm for PD and all things, they have self-paced courses. So you just create a free account and you can look at the many self-paced courses here. If you look at this, it's everything from ESL to career pathways, workforce prep, DEI, technology. And if your program is interested, or we have enough teachers interested in going through it, but you don't want self-paced, you'd like a more a facilitated course, then you can reach out to us and we can see what the options are for getting that. And then SCR Academy courses. These are in between self-paced and facilitated, I will say. Here's a list of the courses. You have access to these. With each course, you have to go through and submit a quick assignment before and get feedback from a facilitator before the next section unlocks for you. I know that she is building more courses now as we speak, as they exchange, because you see we have TABE 11, 12. Well, she's going to build the 13, 14 soon for us. But there's something here for everyone. There's a coaching one. There's something for leadership and working together as a group. So it's not just for instructors or administrators. There's something in here for anybody dealing with students. So again, you have access to that. And any of these things that you do will earn you a Work Ready U badge, a PD badge. Because remember, we started the new badging system this year, and Ben is working on that. And soon you'll get the application so that you can complete that and earn some badges to show off on LinkedIn and everywhere else. Okay, so let's do one more poll. So how do you evaluate courses and planning? We talked about curriculum. We talked about what the courses look like, planning, the design, the scheduling. What do you do currently, or what should you do? Student surveys. And are these, whoever answered that, is that emailed out to students? Do you send that via text or remind? Do they take it right at graduation? Assessments and measurable skill gains. Yeah. I mean, what you're doing in the classroom, the only way we can find out if it's working is by the results of the students on those measurements. But it's important to get good exit tickets. Yeah, each day. But to get the full picture, I think a student survey is important to add to that. Yeah, and coming together, you can have a virtual learning community. You can meet in person with your team, but just sharing what worked and what didn't work, especially if you're doing a drastic change. I know a lot of our programs will take, a site-by-site implementation model to see if it works. Let's change this site to managed enrollment and see what it works like. If it works there, we'll get everything going, then we'll spread it to the next few sites. And then, since now you know all about the tons of terms associated with curriculum and course design, we have a couple of opportunities for you. So whether you're teaching English language learners, reading, writing, social studies, or math, standards in action could be of benefit to you. It's going to be a virtual program starting in the summer and fall. Some of you may have been through this. We were in the original standards in action pilot back in probably 2007. Then we did a virtual cohort probably in 2018-19. But it's very rich material aligned to the standards. You're going to get so many resources, and you're usually paired with a team from folks from other states and a national coach who helps us out. And then Adult Numeracy Network, just math, but it's the fun math. It's the adult numeracy ANN math, the kind where you are looking at art, you are building things, you are working problems from the back end, trying to make things more engaging, learning about number talks, how to get your students interested in math and comfortable with it, how to become comfortable as a teacher with math, English major. So yeah, this is a very, I get nervous when it comes to math, but these math folks make it something that is relatable to what our students are doing. So whether you teach in adult education or not, Adult Numeracy Network and ANI instruction, that's a great starting point. One more plug for something exciting that's coming around for our teacher leaders. You will soon start seeing our save the date, and our invitation. This summer, Ben and I are going to work with a cohort, our first cohort in Atlas, Academy for Teacher Leaders of Adult Students. It's our little leadership academy where we'll kick it off here in Baton Rouge, and then you'll have some virtual time. You'll have some assignments along the way, but it's for anybody working with adult learners. You will have to be nominated by a supervisor. So if you're interested, start nudging them, letting them know that you're interested in this. And then this is the June 14th session that I plugged multiple times for Ben. Scan the QR code to log in to register for that. And then if you're interested in keeping the conversation going on any of the topics that we have had, high school equivalency options, communication strategies, this one curriculum, and then distance learning, just complete this form and I'll invite you to our virtual learning community in Basecamp. Erin, anyone else in the group? Anything in the chat? Anybody want to unmute? I'm sorry?
Questions, comments, concerns, feelings?
Feelings, yes. Hopefully not as much stress when you hear the word curriculum and course development.
I have a question. Is the training going to be on June 7th or June 14th? Because the slide said June 7th.
Look.
Can you hear me?
To be determined. Yes. Oh, 7th? Oh, Erin's muted.
7th.
It is the 7th? Okay. I had June 14th in my head. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
How do I go about enrolling in the standards in action and adult numeracy instruction options that were on that previous slide?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's see. Will someone put my email address in the chat? And then if you reach out to me, I will get in touch with you. There I am. Yeah, because we'd like to get a little cohort. I'm going to put an all call out.
Do you know what that kind of looks like though, Adrian? Or what folks do in that?
So it's usually a couple, like last time, I think it's over a couple of months and you meet, maybe like on a Thursday afternoon for 2 hours with your coach. There's a few overview sessions. You're going to try out some and A&I is the same way. You're going to try out some lessons in your classroom. That's basically your homework. A&I usually has you complete. We had an actual, I think, a space in Canvas to do all our work. For standards in action, I think we just used their little virtual workbook that they sent to us to do some of this.
But you get to interact with other teachers who are trying to put, I mean, like the experience is supposed to help you build your comfort and experience with teaching to these standards, especially if, you know, they are a little foreign to you.
And with this, it's called 2.0 because now they've incorporated more of the English language proficiency standards, so that we really are working on a little bit of ELA, math, and ELP in this. But yeah, I'm going to post this on Basecamp and put an all call out so that we can get a cohort of Louisiana teachers who are interested in this.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So how are we feeling about curriculum? Use the emoji. Are we feeling better? Use your little emoji tool on here. Ooh, Erin's excited.
This is my favorite part of the job.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, mine too. Like I said, I usually have a lot of tabs open on my computer, but when I was searching for resources, there's so much out there. It just takes time to go through them and find the ones that are really worth it. And that's why we go to a lot of the same states. There is some, I know Erin's a big, and we are too, big Minnesota fan, Minnesota Adult Ed and Atlas, their professional development hub. We go to a lot of the states that have taken the time to build a lot of these resources into their website.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot to borrow from all over the place, but there's also a lot of room for creativity. So, you know, you can build your own, choose your own adventure with regards to instruction. Also, I mean, just for kicks, if you go to those standards spreadsheets and pick any of those English standards or reading standards or math standards and Google just the standard, you will find lessons.
Oh, yeah.
You will find videos on instruction. They're generally going to be K-12 focused, but you can adapt any of that to an adult learner classroom. And so it's really just about making sure that you have time on the front end to plan for what it is that you want to deliver, which is a luxury that not everyone always has. But
yeah, and on that note, Erin, about it being a lot of like K-12 and K-12, I can't talk now, K-12 videos, standards in action, A&I and A&N, and TSTM, all the acronyms. Those projects all have actual adult learners in the classroom, videos, snippets, so you can see adults in a classroom and a teacher actually working with those groups. So that's always nice. Thumbs up. We're all good. Ready to move on with our Fridays.
Well, look, thank you all for spending lunchtime with us on a topic that can be, you know, either dry and boring or really
Your happy place.
intimidating if you're like me. We appreciate you spending the time. Please send us any feedback that you might have. Sign up for any of the things. Reach out. We're all in this together. So appreciate
Join the virtual learning community.
Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.